Our props today, if you've just hopped on, some kind of strap. It could be a yoga strap or just a exercise band or something like that, also fine. A blanket and blocks or a chair if you'd like for standing poses. And you can take this time to gather your props and just do some breathing or stretching as you land. And if you have no props, that's really okay too. So my friends, it's top of the hour. Welcome, welcome to those just logging on. Julie, the best way to start my week. It's also, I agree, it is the best way to start the week. So welcome. For those on the West Coast, happy 8 a.m. to you, and various time zones we've got going on here. Brazil, good to see you. Wonderful. So I'm Cantor Lizzie Shammash, and this is IJS Online Yoga Studio. Really happy that you're here. We're happy to practice together today and every Monday. Our props for today are going to be a strap or belt of some kind. We don't need the belt today, so something like an exercise band is okay too. A blanket, if you've got that, and then whatever you might want for standing poses, blocks or chair. And while you're grabbing props, just one announcement from IJS today, and then we'll start into practice. We're going to start on our backs, just so you know where we're going. We have an upcoming retreat later this summer. Being with what is. It's a mindfulness retreat for young adults, focusing on young adults in their 20s and 30s. It's our first in-depth retreat specifically geared towards young adults. So if you are one or know one, someone in their 20s and 30s who would like this opportunity to slow down and connect and drop into what matters most amidst this challenging world, that's from Tuesday, August 13th, to Sunday, August 18th in Litchfield, Connecticut. And the link is there. We'll have it there as well after our yoga. So let's get started. We're going to start on our backs in constructive rest. That's knees on the floor. Sorry, knees bent, soles of the feet on the floor. Try again. And the elbows bent and hands on the low ribs or the low belly or the hip points. Just let your spine settle. Let yourself begin to settle. This is a really supportive and nice way to start the day, to start practice. Just to have a lie down in constructive rest and feel as you begin to land in the breath, in the body. Feel the points that are most connected to the earth, have the most weight toward the floor, the feet, back of the hips, low back. The shoulder blades, outer shoulders, and the back of the skull. And beginning with those touch points, see if you can really start to drop in and release anything you don't need today. With each exhale, see if you can let the body get a little heavier, a little more giving in, surrendering to the floor. And then bring your awareness back to the back of the hips, the low back, that whole pelvis, sacrum area, and just feel the contours of the back of the pelvis. Start to take the knees a couple inches over to the right, and then back through center, and a couple inches to the left. So the feet, soles of the feet stay still, and the knees are just waving a little back and forth. And it's almost as if you're not doing anything. There's a string on each kneecap, and they're just being drawn over to one side and to the other side. And as you do this, and you can just let the breathing do what the breathing does, it might sort of coordinate itself with the movement or not. It doesn't really matter. As you do this action, just feel how the landscape of the sacrum starts to change a little bit. As you feel pressure over to one side of the back of the pelvis and over to the other side, weight shift, pressure changes, and let it be a little bit of a massage to the low back. So just noticing how it is in the pelvis. And then come back to center and take the knees toward you, take the hands to the tops of the kneecaps, and start to, again, with all the effort in the hands, let the knees and the legs and the pelvis be completely easy. With the hands, start to take the knees in a clockwise circle, very slowly. So the arms straighten as the knees go away from you, and then the arms bend as you come toward you. And once again, place your attention on the low back, on the back of the pelvis, and just feel the contour shifts. And see if you can anchor your attention there, and then go the other way with the circle counterclockwise. And just feeling, how is it for me right now in the low back, in the pelvis? And then pause, release the soles of the feet back to the floor, grab your strap. If you don't have one, it's fine. You can just clasp hands behind your right thigh. We're going to take the strap on the right heel and send the leg up towards the ceiling. Straighten the leg. The left knee can stay bent, or the left leg can be long. You can decide here, either way. And again, the attention is the same to the back of the pelvis, to the low back. How does it feel now as you change position? And then take both sides of the strap into the right hand and take that right leg slowly out to the right. And once again, we're not so much focused on the hamstring or the groins or anything. We're focused on the back of the pelvis, the lay of the land. How does it feel as you take the leg out? And a couple times, and now bring the leg back in, that is back up toward the ceiling. A couple times, just slowly taking that leg out to the side and then back in. And feel the shift of weight at the back of the pelvis. Just notice how this feels. And then come back to center and release. And we'll take the other side. I'm just moving because I have a wall in the way. You don't have to move. Just place the strap on the left heel. And again, right knee can be bent or right leg can be straight. Either way. And then inhale the left leg out to the side. And exhale, bring it back to center. And just like this, taking the leg out to the side. If you want to coordinate the breath differently, that's just fine. And back in, and just noticing how is it in the back of the pelvis on this side. And notice if you start to move into your mind at all, telling any kind of story about your low back or any past injuries or concerns, or just moving away from this moment. See if you can just stay right here. Just gathering the facts on how it is right now. Good, and then come back to center. And we'll do one more thing while we're here, which is a little twist from side to side. Draw the knees in towards the chest. Take the arms out at shoulder height. You can place the palms down or the palms up, whichever you like. Let's inhale here, and then let's exhale the knees down to the right. And we're going to stay in a little bit of movement. So we're going to inhale and come back to the center, and exhale the knees down to the left. And then inhale, center, and just like that, exhaling as we go to the side. Go back and forth a couple times, and you guessed it, we're paying attention to the movement of the pelvis and the twisting of the spine. Shoulder blades stay down, so the knees don't have to come all the way to the side. It might be just a little. Engage the core to protect the low back, and just take this to the extent possible for you today. And then come back to center, give the knees a hug. And I'd like to share some teaching. You can stay in constructive rest and just listen and stretch a little if you'd like, or you can come sit up, whatever works for you. So, today, June 24th, goodness, I feel like it was just May 1st. Today's the 18th of the month of Sivan. If you've been noticing, the moon is recently full, and now it's waning. So beautiful. And our Torah portion is Shlach Lecha, literally, send yourself forth. So in this portion, Moses sends out 12 scouts to scout the land of Canaan to see how it's looking. This is by God's instruction. And to see how is it there in the land. There we go. When Moses sent them to scout the land, he says, go up there to the Negev and on into the hill country and see what kind of country it is. Are the people who dwell in it strong or weak, few or many? Is the country in which they dwell good or bad? Are the towns they live in open or fortified? Is the soil rich or poor? Is it wooded or not? And take pains to bring back some of the fruit of the land. So he sends them out, and among these scouts, these 12 scouts, one from each tribe, are Joshua, Yehoshua, and Kalev, as the heart, says his name. What are the contours of this land, right? What is it like? And they go out for 40 days, and they all see the same thing, but they come back with different reports. And so they say, this is what they told him. We came to the land you sent to us to, the land you sent us to. It does indeed flow with milk and honey. Zavat chalav udvash hi, and this is the fruit. However, and the word here is efes ki, which I'll get there in a moment. However, the people who inhabit this country are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. Moreover, we saw these people, and then Caleb says, wait. hushes the people, says, let's by all means go up. We should gain possession of it. We'll get there. And then some of the men who've gone with him say, no, we can't attack that people. They're stronger than we are. The country that we've traversed and scouted is one that devours its settlers. Eretz ochelet yoshveha hi. And it's one that, and all the people we saw in it are men of great size. And we looked like grasshoppers to ourselves and to them. So some come back with a good report, and then they kind of go into but, and then Caleb says, no, but we can go, but. So they come with efes ki, which you could, in the JPS translation says, however, but. Efes ki, literally, that's nothing, because, like, wait a minute, let me tell you my story here. So they move from facts to opinion and critique, right? And this is something that we tend to do, right? We are looking into the landscape, the contours of the land, but we get into storyline. We get into anxiety spirals very easily. And so how do we kind of gain control over our vantage point? And how do we encourage a perspective of Yehoshua and Caleb, a perspective of heartfulness? So today I want to look at the terrain of this body, investigating the land, this home we occupy, and see how is it there? And can we see it with clear sight? And of course, just going back, God punishes those who have been mistrustful and not hopeful. And God says, not one of you shall enter the land. You shall bear your punishment for 40 years. 1 year for each day they scouted the land. So as we know, the Israelites are in the wilderness for 40 years. This is why, and it's a really harsh punishment that God gives. I'm borrowing from wise words of Mark Margolius. In our mindfulness practice, we strive to be more attentive to these internal and external messages, the internal tapes that play on a constant loop in our minds, expressing and exacerbating anxiety. We practice hitlamdut, not by fighting, fleeing from, or repressing fear, but rather by noticing, naming, investigating, and accepting it. We can ask ourselves what fear feels like, identify where and how distress manifests in our body. Maybe in our belly, the racing of the heart, or tension in our neck and shoulders, and we can shine the light of awareness on our fear, remembering to breathe and blessing our frightened self with chesed, with compassion. So that's what we do in our practice, right? We have the ability and the choice in the matter to disrupt fear, to disrupt false feedback that we misconstrue, right? And that's where the rubber meets the road. In our meditation practice, in our yoga practice, it's really the same. So we want to look at the contours of the land here, and today I'm focusing in on the sacrum, on the low back, on the movement of the pelvis, because it's kind of a hot spot for a lot of us. And how can we just sort of do the work without telling stories about it? So we're going to look at that. We looked at it on the floor, and we'll look at it in standing. So we're going to come to a half forward fold. You could take hands to a chair or to blocks or to your shins, any way you'd like. What we're looking at here first is just what is it like when we take the pelvis over the heads of the thigh bones, right, and lift up and over and come to a forward bend, and just feel what that is. So feet hip width apart. Lift and spread your toes. Lay them down. Ground the four corners of the feet and lift the arches. So find that even standing, really nice for yourself. Grounding. Right? Before we scout the land, it's best to ground ourselves. Take the hands to the hips. Inhale, uplift the sternum, squeeze those shoulder blades toward each other, and then lifting the hips up and over, we fold and take our hands to wherever you're going. right? Could be blocks, could be shins. Draw the thighs back. And you don't want to go so low that you then have to round the whole body, right? So it's kind of like a half fold here. Could be less than that. Drawing the thighs back, helping to elongate and hollow out the abdomen. Long spine. Notice where are your neck and head. See if you can keep neck and head in line with the rest of the spine. Draw the belly slightly in. Lift up on the kneecaps and lift up on the thighs, the quads. And just notice any sensation arising in the calves, the backs of the thighs. And notice the condition of the low back. See if you can keep it nice and broad, nice and wide. And then as you're ready, hands to the hips. Inhale, pressing the feet down and lifting the heart up. And then exhale, come back to center. Just pause in mountain pose. Easy through the body. And take a hand to the low belly and the low back. And just feel. How is this land? And however it is today is fine. Maybe you feel nothing, not getting in touch with any sensations. Maybe you're having some tenderness or, God forbid, even pain in the low back. And if so, just working with that really gently, compassionately, lovingly. And you do whatever you can do. You don't have to follow me completely if it's not in your plan today for your low back. Taking your hands away and bringing the legs a little bit wider. Turning the toes to face the corners of the mat. We're just going to get ready with some external rotation. So inhaling here and exhaling, bending the knees. Inhale, come on up. And exhale, bend the knees. And inhale, come up. And keep going like this a few times. You might like that breath pattern, or you might prefer to reverse it. Or just try both. You'll see. And see that the knees are going out in line with the toes. Just starting to heat up the thigh muscles. You can pause if you'd like, or you can stay in movement. Just a little warm up here. And then come on up, bring the feet back together. And we'll take a look at tree pose for a moment. So shifting over to the right leg as your standing leg, really tall through that trunk. And then turn out from the left hip. Okay, and you can take balance at the wall or a chair, or bring your whole back to the wall, whatever you need. Or you can take tree pose with the foot on the chair. See what you'd like. Place the foot. The only place that you don't want to place the foot is right against the knee. You never want to do that. Never want to push a joint in a way it doesn't go. So leg towards the foot and foot towards the leg. And just notice, again, our focus today, although it's always balance, our focus is the low back. Keeping it broad. Just noticing the contours of the land. And you can take a hand, as I'm doing, to the belly and to the low back. Just feel this. And if you fall out, you come back in, no problem. And then we'll switch sides. Shifting over. The left leg is your standing leg. Turn out from the right hip and place the foot. So wherever you want to be. And wherever you're going, really pay attention. So you have joints here in the sacrum, the SI joints. We become familiar with them, unfortunately, because for a lot of people, they get out of whack, they get tender. Sacroiliac joint, right? You have the sacrum and the ilium. So there's actually, even though it feels hard and bony, there's some movement, there are joints there. We want to keep it nice and broad and open and strong so that we stay out of pain and out of distress. So feeling that contour, not pushing past your edge. And then you can release when you wish. This all leads us to triangle pose, which now gets a little more complicated, right? So we have tree, here's the action here. We have warrior two, same action, yeah? And then we have triangle, but this time we're going to shift the pelvis. And so it can be kind of, we treat it as a beginner pose, but it can be a very advanced pose because we're shifting now the pelvis. So we want to take a look at that really in a delicate fashion. Jump the feet apart or step the feet apart, left toes in, right toes out. Right? So now we're going to pay attention to how is it in this land when I am now shifting the hips and shifting the sacrum over. So the legs are both straight. The front heel bisects the back arch. And it's as if the hips are just on a conveyor belt and moving over to the side. So start here again, one hand to the low belly and one hand to the back. And shift the hips over to the left. Again, legs are straight. So we're just making more of a crease over here on the right. And then come on up. And just do this a couple times. Shifting the hips, coming up. And see if we can do this without any pain or strain in that place of the SI joints, the sacroiliac. And the main key here is supporting the core, strong muscles around the spine and the abdomen, and broadness across the back. Okay, so let's come into the pose. You can take hands to the hips, or you can keep them here. Inhale, exhale, shift the weight, extend the torso, and then the arm is coming down. It might be to the shin, it might be to a chair, it might be to a block. You'll decide. Long spine, right? So we do this pose in many ways on many days, and today's focus is the pelvis. And then when you're ready, you can come on up, shift on up, and we'll turn the feet to go the other direction. And once again, just shifting the pelvis over to the right and coming up. And just notice how it's different on the other side, right? So it has a lot to do with how is it for you in this groin and this back of the leg and this hip, et cetera, and these knees, they all have an effect on what's going to happen with the pelvis. So in a sense, we can't just isolate it. We have to take the whole body into account, right? But again, say if this leg is a little bit tighter, maybe I can't shift over as much. So we really have to keep ourselves from just going on automatic. Like, oh, I know how to do this. It was like that over on that side. It'll be the same. Really take note as to how the contours of this landscape might be different. And then come on up. And we'll get ready to go into the pose. Inhale fully. And exhale, shift the hips, lengthen the torso. And then you can bring the arm down. You can bring the top arm up if you like. But I'm enjoying keeping my top arm onto the sacrum. And you might investigate that as well. If you just spread your palm, what does that afford you? What does that feel like? When you're ready, come on up. And then I'm going to invite you to explore this on your own one more time on each side. You might want to go more fully into the pose or just do the shifting of the pelvis. Just check it out. One time, a couple breaths each side. Take your time. When we do an exploration like this, sometimes it's nice. I find, in my own experience, sometimes it's nice just to do a little less, to come a little less deeply into the pose, and really just focus on that one area. And I learned that generally, all of us, we tend to often use our ego to get into the pose instead of the details that are really right there. And then inhale and come on up. And now one last standing pose with the even pelvis, and that's wide leg forward bend. So you may want to have, again, chair or blocks in front of you, or maybe hands will come to the floor. You'll decide. Legs are wide, outer edges of the feet parallel to the outer edges of the mat, and then if you're able, turn the toes in slightly, hands to the hips. And notice it's very different pelvis feel in this pose. Inhale, lift up, heart up, and exhale, once again, let that pelvis come over the tops of the thighs and forward. Long spine. Hands down. Draw the thighs back. It's the same forward fold as when the legs are closer together in principle, in movements. And investigate the land. What do you find here? What's true for you? What's present? If you want to come into more of a fold, go ahead. Head to the block or the chair or the floor. Both legs are straight. Micro bend on the knees. Lifting up through the kneecaps and up through the quads. Again, same principle. Inhale, extend to flat back. Exhale, hands to the hips. Inhale, press the feet down to lift up. Lift the heart up. And exhale, back to center. Step or hop or jump the feet together. Take any last shakeout or mountain pose, whatever you need, before we head to the floor. We're going to come to a seated position. And this, we're going to do a seated twist. This can also be done in the chair if you prefer not to sit on the floor. So if you've got a blanket, you're going to sit up. Give your hips a little bit of elevation. I want to show you from the side so you can see a nice lift to the low back. Again, our emphasis here is what are the contours of this pelvis, right? So we want to keep it nice and broad and open and not rounded, right, and tucked. So we're right up on the center of the sitting bones, broad sacrum area. And I'll give you 3 variation options, and you may have even more that you can think of for a twist. So one is bend the right knee, draw the shin in and lift up, extend straight through that left leg. That's one. 2 is take the right foot, cross it over the left leg. 3 could be tuck the left leg under you. So you have a few options here. If you're sitting in the chair, you can sit straight forward. You could sit to the side of the chair and turn to the back of the chair. All right, so hands to shins, hands clasped. Draw the shin toward you, the hands toward you. Lift the spine up as you drive the sitting bones down. Take the right arm in front of you, extend, fingertips open, palm open, right at shoulder height. And let's inhale here. And as you exhale, start to bring the arm out to the right. twisting, twisting. Let the gaze follow the fingertips as the arm comes back, and eventually take the hand to the floor, pushing up on the fingertops to lift the spine up. Okay, so here we are in the twist. Left hand could be to the outside of the right knee, or maybe you want the knee in the crook of your elbow, or maybe you want the elbow to the outside of the knee. You decide the best way for you for this twist. Be here and breathe. Inhale tall, and with each exhale, a little bit of spinning into the twist. Good. And so notice, how is it in the back of the pelvis, in the right hip, in both hips? Does fear start to come up? Can you breathe with what's here? So fear sometimes has a really good purpose. It's really telling us, no, the body doesn't want to go more. You can't push it. But sometimes we're just telling ourselves stories. And we can really come back to what's right here in the present landscape. And as you're ready, release. Come on back to center and take a counter twist to the left. Open it up. And then come back to center. You can shake it out and we'll change legs. So again, we're going to bend the left knee, bring the knee in toward the body. We can extend the right leg long. Legs are parallel. Or we can cross the left foot over the right. Or we could bend the right and tuck it under. No one is better or more advanced than the other. They're just choices. See what's best in your body today, right now. Hands to the shins, clasping. As you clasp the hands toward the body, lift the spine up. Ground the sitting bones down. Extend the left arm out in front of you at shoulder height, palm facing down. Inhale here, lift up tall. And exhale, start to follow the arm, the fingers around to the left, out on the horizon. Gaze is following the hand to the extent possible with your own neck and head. And then bring that left hand down behind you. Press down with the fingertips to lift up. And then decide where you want that right arm to be. And work your way into this twist. As you're ready, start to release, come back to center, and take a counter twist, opening it up to the right. Great. And then come on forward. You can shake out the legs. And the next one, we did standing forward bends. Now we're going to do seated forward bend, yogi's choice. I'll give you a couple options. So again, we're working with the contours here of the sacrum. You could do cross legs. You could sit cross legs. You could take the legs out long in front of you. You could use the strap if you'd like for this forward bend here, or you could take legs wide. Forward bending. So you decide which one. Wherever you are, we're sitting up tall on those sitting bones. Inhale, lift up tall. And as you exhale, you can begin to fold forward. You can pause, inhale and lengthen, and exhale and fold. Coming into a forward bend that you could hold for a little bit. And once again, feeling how is it across the low back as you go. If you're doing cross legs, just come up at some point and change the cross of the shins and come on forward again. And just really anchoring your attention, your mind into the low back. How is it with this movement? How does it feel? A little more from Rabbi Mark Margolius. At a nikuda bechira, at a choice point, or a moment of heightened awareness, we're able to discern more clearly the extent to which our fear is, quote, true or false. If it's grounded in reality and serving to protect us, quote, true, we accept and act upon that message. To the extent it is exaggerated and false and paralyzing, quote, false, we ground ourselves in reality and cultivate the midah of bitachon, or trust, directing attention to the internal and external sources of support available to us, but which we forget or neglect. We practice bitachon by attuning ourselves, trust, bitachon, by attuning ourselves to the internal and external voices soothing our triggered nervous system. Instead of a panicked, this is disaster or this is impossible, we affirm that this could be hard and I or we will be okay. We apply as well emunah, faith, trustworthiness, by stepping consciously forward into the unknown, even while conscious of our fear. We demonstrate our own trustworthiness by showing up for ourselves. As you're ready, you can release that forward fold and come on up. And for those who wish, as long as your wrists are okay. If your wrists are not so awesome or feeling tender, then don't do this one. You'll head down to your back and towards final stillness, resting. But if you'd like a little counter pose to the forward bending, you're taking your hands behind you with the fingers pointed forward. Bend the knees, soles of the feet to the floor. Inhale, press into the feet, lift up the hips. Table. Extending the tailbone, lifting the hips. You can keep the chin tucked toward the chest, or you can send the head back depending on what you'd like for your neck. Just stay a breath or two, just briefly, and come on down. And you can take any movements or stretches or posture shapes that you would like before we settle into stillness. Take your time exploring. So there's so much, there can be a lot of fear when we enter our yoga practice. You know, the body's changing all the time. There's always something that we're working with, but we can kind of use this teaching to see how to direct ourselves here on the mat. And then, of course, how we can take it off the mat. So I want to invite you, if you'd like, for this final resting, for this shavasana, to roll up your blanket, little jelly roll here. Place it under the knees or under the thighs, under the root of the thigh, whatever feels good to you. And then just lay it down. You can take your glasses off if you're wearing glasses. Allow the palms to face up. Or anything else that's more comfortable for you. just take a moment for total stillness. Just releasing, surrendering, taking some quiet, allowing the nervous system to receive all the beauty you just generously offered it. As you're ready, beginning to deepen the breath. Take your time to come up to a comfortable seat. And as we seal our practice, one more time, take one hand to the belly and one hand to the low back. And bring some warmth and attention to this area. Do you feel its contours? And then you can release your hands. Just keep your whole body, widen your field of attention, holding your whole body in kindness, in chesed, always a good antidote to fear. We close by sending the efforts and the benefits of our practice and of our work together out for the benefit of others. And as we have been doing since we gathered October 9th, and each Monday that's followed, we offer a prayer for the chatufim, for the hostages, that they may be delivered soon to safety. Our sages had the wisdom to put this in our prayer book because it was necessary, unfortunately, even centuries ago. So you can join me. Words are coming on the screen, and you can join me or just listen. Acheinu kol beit Yisrael, Achyoteinu kol beit Yisrael, Hanetunim b'tzara ubashivya, Haomdim ben bayam uven bayabasha. Hamakom yerachem aleim, v'yotziem mitzara lirevacha, umhafel leora, umishibud ligeula, hashta bagala uvizman kariv. Just finishing with a couple of deep cleansing breaths. And then coming back to the room, colors, textures. And as we make transition back to our day.
Yeah.